Welcome everybody to maximize your PE program. My name is Kyle Bragg. A little bit about me. I am a K through 5 PE teacher in Scottsdale, Arizona. My Twitter handle is ELEMPE1, and I'm a proud Illinois State University graduate. So I was at the PE Institute presenting this summer, and I got a lot of positive feedback about some things that I showed, and I wanted to make sure that other people that weren't able to come were able to see some of these things. So I kept it somewhat similar to that presentation, but I also want to give the opportunity for everyone to be able to access. So I'm going to elaborate on some things there. Learning targets. How are we going to maximize student learning and engagement? Through planned transitions, positive distractions, I call them, and appropriate feedback. Second thing we're going to do is incorporate social emotional learning to create a warm, loving classroom climate using the power of moments, the powerful moments. I get a lot of questions on how I start PE, so I wanted to show a couple examples of what I do. So here's the K through 1. I didn't invent this. I saw it on Twitter, so I'm sure many of you have seen things like this. That's how they come in. They get to pick hug, fist bump, salute, wave. While I'm doing that, so they're entering, I have the first person that comes in. They go to my computer. They press the green button, which is the space bar. That space bar starts the video, so they are engaged immediately when they enter. I'm in a position where I can see them, I can observe them, but I'm also really making sure they feel comfortable coming in the class. So I'm engaging everyone, I'm saying their name, and that first person presses play on my laptop, which starts everyone at their warm-up. So everyone goes to their home spots. The video started when the first person presses play, and everyone just comes to their home and gets started immediately without any instruction needed. So that's K through 1. It's been very useful, very helpful to establish that relationship with the kids. They just absolutely eat that up. And it's a great moment for me as well. So if you look at the middle here, I got this from Ben Landers, the self-assessment. So what many people do is they have them tap on the way out, which I do as well. But before they come to PE, this is all grades for this, they'll tap what they think they're going to get. So if you see this, it says before PE, what number will you earn today? How? So let's say they come to PE and they tap a 4. Okay, so that's what their prediction is. That gets them thinking about how they are going to get to a 4. That gets them a goal. They keep that in mind, and that way they can focus on getting to that goal. And then when they come out, when they're walking back the other way to end, they tap again and they ask themselves, what number did you earn? Were you right? Were you wrong? And why? And that gets them to really kind of follow through with the goal setting. You know, they get to discuss if they got it, why, how, and if they didn't, why, how. What I have is 5 is above and beyond, helping others, giving compliments. That's my 5. 4 is you did everything you're supposed to do individually. So you didn't really, go above and beyond with, teaching others, helping others, giving compliments, but you were a great listener. You followed all directions. 3 is keep on trying. Maybe you had a reminder. Maybe you had to briefly sit out, something that we need to fix. And then 2 doesn't happen very often at all, but if they maybe had a major problem or had to sit out multiple times. So that kind of holds them accountable, so making that prediction. Here's an example. Since we have they come to me, and then usually we go outside if it's nice. This is for the older kids, 2 through 5. So instead of wasting time going to the circle outside, I have them do things like tell a neighbor what good bowlers do. How is bowling similar or different than overhand throwing? So as they're transitioning outside, they're actually discussing what good bowlers do, for example. I get to listen to that and I get to see what's correct, what we can elaborate on. It's kind of a pre-assessment for me, and it kind of drives and informs instruction that day. Because if everyone's already saying that they step with the opposite foot, then there's no need to spend too much time on that because they already know that. So maybe a brief recap of that. I'll have the student discuss that. But maybe they have no idea what good bowlers do, and I hear this discussion that isn't really making too much sense. Then I can spend a little bit more time and clarify things. So I kind of use what they know and then adjust how I teach that day based on their prior knowledge. And if you've noticed, when you write directions, there's no more repeated directions. You just point to the board and they do it. Instead of repeating 3-4 times for people who might not have heard. Plus, you're incorporating reading, which the classroom teachers love. So that's kind of how I start PE. K through 1, if you're inside, usually they're inside. Since it's pretty hot in Arizona usually, so they go in, they give me a hug, whatever they choose. They tap the green button to start the projector or start the video. Gets them immediately started. And if we go outside, there's a written direction so they know exactly what to do. And to help me inform instruction, they're talking about what they know about the activity for that day. All right, I'm going to show how I finish class. I've shown this on Twitter, but just in case anyone has not seen, I call it a snake. So I'll show it and then I'll discuss.
Finish up that thought in 3, 2, 1. Gator, gator. All right, we are going to snake it in, and we are going to have the snake.
Before I show the snake, that eye contact, that turning to face the speaker doesn't just happen. That needs to be trained, and you need to teach them that whoever's speaking literally is the most important person in the room at that time. So they're facing me now. I do the gator, gator, chop, chop. That's my attention getter. And now I'm going to show you that snake.
Snake be led by Rowie. We're going to have the tail right here. So Rowie's going to lead us in all the way to the yellow line. And our tail is going to be finishing.
All right, so why is that effective? All right, well, at the center where we meet each day to finish class, the center circle, they're discussing with their partner the objectives. So now I can get a sense of what they know, what they learn, tells me maybe what I need to review next time or what they just didn't quite comprehend. And then it also finishes with the positive. So they're giving compliments and shout outs of the success stories they had. And because they finish with these positive thoughts, they're going to want to come back to PE next time. They're going to have these great thoughts about being physically active and being in the PE setting that they're just going to want to keep coming back. So finishing with a positive is really key to keep them motivated for the whole year. There's no more arguing about running to the line or budgeting because they don't know where the line starts. They don't know where it starts until I pick the head of the snake. So they're just sharing with a neighbor. I picked Rowie because she was doing an amazing job at complimenting others, but also making sure everyone feels comfortable and working hard and being a great listener. All these small little things added up to where Rowie was led the snake. Then it's kind of a decent walk. Maybe it takes about a minute to get all the way back to the line, so to the classroom. So I have the head of the snake pick a pathway. So let's say K1. They're really learning pathways, straight, curves, zigzags. So they get to pick. And as the rest of the snake is following the head, I ask them, what kind of pathway is this? And they'll say straight or curved or zigzag. So we're not wasting any time. Even during our transitions, we're learning. So that's how I finish class. Empowering students as leaders is so crucial to get them to understand we have a mutual respect for each other. Sometimes I lead, sometimes they lead. They are capable of leading as long as you train them. So this is an example of a fourth grader doing what I call team jumping jacks, and it's a team building thing, and I'll have you watch.
2, 1. H-O-N-E-S-T.
Almost. I'm getting on video. Let's go.
3, 2, 1. H-O-N-E-S-T.
Clap for that. Very good.
We always finish with clapping for our success, whether it's a small or big thing, and they remember the activity more when you finish with success. As you notice up there, there's teamwork, there's honest, there's, I think, support and respect. So all these things I'm looking for in the lesson, which makes it an easy segue or transition to have those discussions about those words and to use those words in the lesson. So they only needed 2 times to get that done correctly. So they have to start together, they have to spell together, and they have to finish together. And that only took them twice. You'll notice I kind of joked with her and gave her a hard time in that class. I know I can do that with her because I know her well, and she just thinks it's funny. While some other kids might be, kind of embarrassed. So that's why I kind of gave her a hard time. And I think that really helped her because they got it the second time and we celebrated. From this point, I would probably say, when I say go toe to toe with a partner, go 3, 2, 1. They point at me when they have a partner. If they don't have a partner, they come to me. I'm the lost and found. And then I'll say, one person raise your hand. One of them raise their hands. I'll say, when I say go, the hand up person is going to explain about the word teamwork. After they're done, the other person is going to explain about honesty. Then each person is practicing attentively listening, but also giving some good answers. And then that gets them to make it fresh in their brain so they can use those words like teamwork and honesty in that activity or in that lesson. So it's an easy way to embed character traits, or whatever words you want, vocab words, but to include students as leaders. All right, I didn't come up with these ideas. These are ones from Twitter and ones from Open. This is called maximizing learning through positive distraction. Positive distraction, in my opinion, is really crucial for motivation, but also to get them to go longer. Whatever you're doing, they'll go longer if they're in a positive distraction. I'll explain more after you watch this. All right, what's going on here? They're working on muscular endurance. They're hanging from the pull-up bar, but they're also working on foot-eye coordination, where they're transferring that deck ring from one foot to the other foot. And because they're distracted by the deck ring, they're less likely to get tired, and they're less likely to think about how long and how hard how long they're holding their body up and how hard it probably is, because they're focused on a different task. So yes, they're working on foot-eye coordination, but they're also able to go longer because it's a competition, a friendly competition, and they're forgetting about how tired they might be getting. Another example is, instead of just jogging outside for a warm-up, how about you jog and explain what muscles you're working on while you jog with a neighbor? Why don't you jog and do tossing a beanbag, work on hand-eye coordination? If they're interacting socially with a partner, if they're tossing the beanbag, they're going to be able to jog longer because they're motivated, because it's more fun. More importantly, they're probably distracted on how tired they're getting because they're so focused on catching the beanbag, right? They're so focused on having a social interaction with their partner. So it's a positive distraction. Here's another one from Open. All right, what are they working on? Well, muscular endurance. They're holding that plank position. What else are they doing that is a distraction, a positive distraction for them? They're tossing the bean bags. So they're working with neighbors, they're working with friends, making it more fun, social interaction. They're also so worried about getting their beanbag out of their hula hoop that they're forgetting how tired they're getting. I said if they really need to, they can put their knee down like he's doing, then get right back up. But it's a friendly competition, so they're going to hold that push-up position way longer than if they were just doing it just that on its own. And they're also kind of working on a little accuracy with tossing, right? They're tossing in the other person's hula hoop. They're being respectful and honest, only tossing one at a time. So you'll be amazed how long they can hold that push-up position if they're in a positive distraction like this game. Thank you, Open. Thank you. All right. what do you do when students get tagged? What do you have them do? Because what I see some people do is, you can do this, it's not the end of the world, but when you have the people that get tagged do exercises all the time, um, some people see that as punishment and then they might lie about being tagged. So when you think about who gets tagged most, the people that are maybe a little slower, that aren't as strong or fast, and guess who's doing all the exercises? Them people, those people, because they're getting tagged all the time. When the people that need to be challenged are getting away from all the taggers and are never doing exercises. So, in my opinion, I think we really need to think about what we're doing when we get tagged. Um, maybe you get tagged and you go work on a locomotor skill, maybe jumping into hula hoops, jump, 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 and once you jump through 20 hula hoops, you get right back in the game. Okay, they won't see that as punishment as much. In this compliment tag game, when they get tagged, they raise their hand and then somebody comes to give them the compliment. Now all of a sudden they got tagged. They're not seeing that as such a negative thing. They understand somebody's going to come give them a compliment. So I'll have you watch and I'll explain. So relate each activity to a bigger purpose. So instead of just playing tag just to play tag, teach them compassion, teach them to give compliments. Here's compliment tag.
Oh. All right, go see someone else.
Notice how she said her name. She said she likes the bow. That makes her feel good, but also makes Lila feel good because she made someone's day, and that's compliment tag. So less with the negative, more with supporting emotionally. And this next one is called hug tag. When they get tagged, they reach their arms out and somebody comes to save them by giving a hug. Don't you think that's going to create a warm, loving classroom climate that they're going to want to come back to every single day? It's an emotionally safe environment to where if you get tagged, it's not seen as such a negative. That's part of the game. It's called tag. You're going to get tagged eventually. So you train them to be compassionate and give hugs. And that's going to be a powerful moment that they're going to remember for a while. And it's a win-win again. If you're giving a hug, you're going to feel good. If you're getting a hug, you're going to feel good. There'll be more, and then you can talk about how being happy will make you be more skilled at the future activities, right? Because you're in a positive state of mind. You feel good, you're more likely to be good at whatever's next. So that is hug tag. This next one is from Randy Spring, and it quite possibly could be the most significant, most important game I've ever played in PE. Think about all these things that are being taught in this one game. I'll have you watch and then I'll explain.
Oh, good.
Look at all these things that happen. All right. So one, they're working on locomotors. All right. So we're working on skipping, galloping. They're skipping, galloping, or whatever we're working on a line or a crack. They can't leave it. When they're when they're approaching somebody that's in their way, they greet them. So they're learning how to greet with a handshake or say their name or say hello. They do rock, paper, scissors, which is usually our way of solving problems. So they're practicing problem solving there. If they won, they practiced showing compassion by getting out of the way and letting the other person pass, because no one likes to lose in anything. So when they lost or they didn't win, the winner gets out of the way. They literally make a motion that they can go ahead, and all of a sudden they can keep playing the game. Roby here, she's working on patience, right? So I'm setting this game up to where sometimes you interact with people and they get in your way, and sometimes you have to wait for your turn. So she's showing patience by waiting until they get done with their game. So these are things that are going to be important in not only PE but beyond PE in the classroom. And in their future lives as well, with their, when they get a job, they got to know how to, in a interview, they got to know how to interact with people. They got to know how to communicate, problem solve. All these things are going to help them get a job someday. That is Line Your Manners by Randy Spring. Big shout out. Thank you so much. All right, we've all played things like Sharks and Minnows. I don't have my video of Sharks and Minnows, but I want to talk to you about creating teachable moments. Teachable moments. You know how things happen sometimes and a teachable moment comes up and then you explain the significance? That happens every now and then, but I want you to create your own teachable moment by planning ahead and having this, having something you know is going to happen, then you can stop the class and talk about it. So, in Sharks and Minnows,
Hey everyone, this is Shark.
just as a demonstration here. So here are the sharks, right? They say dinner time, and then we have the minnows run, okay? So let's say they run, and these two got tagged because they will run to their side. They squat down, right? We all know this game. All right, now, first of all, and you praise them for being honest. They squat down, they have their hand up, ready to get a high five from the other people to get saved. So these are our injured minnows. They say dinner time. As these people are jogging or running back to this other safe zone, you know those fast people are going to try to save as many people as they can. So let's say he came or she came, they say dinner time. High five him, high five her, they both stand up, and then he gets right about here, almost to the safe zone, and then he gets tagged and he squats down. Stop the class right there. Here's a really significant teachable moment that you can share with the class. You relate it to something bigger. If you feel comfortable, you can discuss when our soldiers are battling for our country and they're fighting for our freedom, and sometimes things happen to them where they get injured or they even pass away. They gave up their lives to help someone else. That person gave up his life to help two other people that got saved. And then you can talk about how we are so lucky to be in a country that has freedom, right? That can be a natural transition. That's a huge concept that is so important for our kids to know. Gratitude, understand a background to our history, in America, and that, praise those things that are thinking about other people before themselves. Even beyond that, remember he got tagged right here, almost safe, right? He squatted down and he saved two other people. He squats down, stop the class. Did you notice how Joey, when he got tagged right before the safe zone, he squatted down? He could have easily tried to pretend like he got to the safe zone. He might have even been able to get away with it. But he knows that's not the right thing to do. He knows he wants to do the right thing and tell the truth. Everyone clap for Joey. What a great thing. Boom, 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 boom. Right? Those are teachable moments that I planned out. I knew they were going to happen. But I have to be ready for them when they do happen. Freeze, stop the class. Everyone turns to face me, talk about this significant moment, and keep playing the game. Don't be afraid to stop when that important moment happens. You don't want to let that slip by. So that is Sharks and Minnows, creating your own teachable moments. All right, another teachable moment that I've created and that's really worked well for me, and I learned this from Jorge Rodriguez. You set up equipment, but you don't set out enough for everyone to have. Knowing that you have some students that are going to share and give up the equipment to help somebody else. Now, if you haven't established that thoughtfulness, that caring, then you couldn't do this. Yeah, you have to teach that first. But if you know, I know Bailey is going to give up that equipment to help somebody out. Okay, so I have 20 people in the class. I set up 17 bean bags, and I see Bailey get a bean bag, and she sees that Josiah didn't get a bean bag. Bailey will give that bean bag to Josiah because you've seen her do things like that before. Freeze, stop the whole class. The whole class watches. You make that a huge deal. We all clap for Bailey. I have Bailey go write her name on the wall of fame. That's a moment she won't forget. And that all of a sudden everyone is going to start thinking about others. That's a moment that you can create, a teachable moment you can create that didn't just happen by chance, but that happened because you established a culture of sharing, and that you knew people were going to respond that way, and you set it up on purpose, not having enough equipment. So thanks, Jorge Rodriguez. I'm not going to show this whole video, but because it's about 3 minutes long, but this is well worth showing your students, especially after extended breaks, after summer or spring break or winter break. These CBS on the road stories are flat out amazing. They teach gratitude and perspective. This one is this kid has a learning disability. The football team teamed up to create a play to where he could score a touchdown. They gave him the ball, they protected them, they let him score a touchdown because they knew it would make his day, maybe even year. And what they didn't realize at the time, but after the fact, looking back on it, how they were so greatly impacted. They just made someone's day or year. They're going to feel so good about themselves. And that is significant. That is something that kids will really, really, they see the video, they understand the significance. They will be way more likely to do those things for the kids in your class. And it teaches them to think beyond themselves. And they talk about in this video that when the football team thinks you're cool, then everyone thinks you're cool. And it's just like a domino effect where that one little thing can really make everyone's day. And then I just watched one today actually with a basketball 13-year-old kid that didn't have any arms, and he wanted to be on a basketball team, and he tried out and he made it because he outworked pretty much everyone. He finally got in the game and made a couple 3-pointers, and the whole crowd went nuts. The team went nuts, and you can see it in my students' faces that they just got it, right? If you maybe talk about perspective, they might not understand the significance. If you show videos like this, they will get it, and you'll be amazed on how well they treat people and how well they think about others before themselves. CBS on the road. Give it a try. There's about 3 minutes each. They're well worth it. Looking for ways to involve your injured students. There's lots of ways to do this, but I cannot stand when I see students just sitting there doing nothing. You have to be proactive and think out what they can do to impact your class. So I have you watch Lila here. Her arm is injured, not her leg. So watch what she does to impact her class. You see that spring in her step? She was injured. I could have had her sit down, do nothing. I created something for her to do to positively impact our class. And us getting that sticker she was a significant part of us getting that sticker that day. She couldn't actually physically participate in activities, but she would go around with my microphone over the loudspeaker and have people compliment others. And she had the biggest smile, and she was my teacher helper that day. Big shout out to Rainy Spring, by the way. Another shout out for those gifts, those gymnastic gifts. They're amazing. But you'll also notice about halfway through, Eldon said a compliment, and Lila said, "At what?" Eldon said, "Good job." And she says, "At what?" You have to, in my opinion, train students to give specific compliments. Even kindergartners can do this if you train them. So don't just say, "Good job." Good job at never giving up. Good job at persevering. Good job at collaborating. Good job of smiling even when you get tagged. All these things kindergartners and first graders can do if you model and practice, practice, and practice. Now all of a sudden, they know how to give specific compliments, which is drastically going to impact their classmates because they're going to know exactly what they did good at, right? And give compliments that everyone can do. For example, everyone can try hard. So saying, "Hey, good job of trying hard and doing your best," that's a great compliment. That's fair for everyone. If you said, "Hey, you're the fastest person. You're so fast. Great job." That's not all that fair, right? Not everyone can be the fastest person. Think about something that everyone can do. Great job of being a great listener with eye contact. Anyone can have eye contact and be a good listener. That just takes effort, right? Great job of collaborating with a teammate. Anyone can do that, right? But not everyone can throw a ball over the fence, 20 yards. So giving compliments that everyone can do really establishes that culture of, people buying into what you're doing and not picking favorites. And that book, Power of Moments, is just flat out amazing. It talks about how we can create a powerful moment that students or anybody can remember for the rest of their lives based on discussing the success stories and just getting them to think about all those good things, and they're going to be more likely to remember them in a positive light. So she's going to remember loving PE, even though she wasn't able to participate physically. She's going to love coming back to PE. I guarantee it. The quick transitions, what I do is I give two pretty easy directions, and they're both gift up there on the projector. So instead of stopping all the time, I'll just yell switch, right? So the girls and boys are doing something different here.
And switch! That means girls find your own mat quickly. The first person was Rowie. Thank you, Rowie. Pencil or Superman.
Great warm-up for gymnastics unit. Kevin Tiller showed me first, I think. Mike Graham also did it. Jason Steele also did it. A wonderful game, but notice that switch, no wasted time. They knew what they were supposed to do. If they didn't, they looked at the gift that showed exactly what to do. So using that visuals really helps, and just switch, switch, switch instead of stopping and explaining more. Here I have a wall of fame. A wall of fame is going to create a powerful moment. So for example, here is a friend that was really considering other people the whole time. And he was helping, and he was being so respectful, and he might have picked somebody up, or he might have helped them in basketball or whatever. I have him write his name on the wall of fame. Because I'm having him write it, he's more likely to remember being on the wall of fame. He's more likely to want to continue being active and doing these things beyond PE, because all of a sudden he has this connection with PE and happiness, right? He was on the wall of fame. He did something great. It's not some materialistic thing where I'm giving him a piece of candy. He's physically doing something and taking pride in what he did. Notice my friend here, he's looking at him, showing that, wow, that's really cool. I want to get up there, okay? Then we discuss in front of the whole class how he got up there, and then other people are more likely to do that and get up there as well. So that's a powerful moment they're going to remember. If you look up top here, there's a sign that says, you'll be teaching and learning. Let's say the kid in the red is really good at basketball and the kid in blue is really good at volleyball. When we're doing basketball dribbling, I encourage him to help the kid in the blue with dribbling. And then when we get to volleyball, I encourage the Trey in the blue to help the kid in the red on volleyball. So everyone is good at different things or has more experience at different things. No one's perfect at anything. So we use our strengths to help others. And if we have 5 teachers, it's way better than just one teacher, me. So I train them to teach people when they have success, and then somebody else will help you with something they're good at because you helped them in the past. So it's kind of a win-win there. More student leadership. This is called Are You Doing the? Before I explain more about this game, look at my man Luis here, okay? When he was hopping, he was like, hey, Mr. Bragg, can I do a Fortnite arm swing with my hop? And I'm like, sure, okay? Now think about, there's so many reasons why I had him do that. First of all, I'm teaching students that there's not just one way to do things, okay? I'm being teachable and open and willing to listen to others, right? So they get ownership in how they do that, right? Second thing, don't you think he's going to be more likely to practice his hopping at recess if he's doing the Fortnite part? Absolutely. Do you think it's also going to go hop, hop, hop? Each hop is that arm movement. Doesn't that teach him about rhythm and beats in music class that they learn? So that's reinforcing music concepts. Don't you think when his arm is out, he's probably able to balance himself more, right? All these things are positives that, because I was open and willing to let him be creative, right? And there's more than one way to do things. He was way more likely to be on task and more likely to practice and all these things. All right, so Are You Doing the is they pick their locomotor movement around the circle and they go up to people and ask, are you doing the skipping? And that is a good assessment for me to see what they know and if they know the difference between skipping and hopping and leaping and all these things. And it gives them ownership of they get to pick what they do and they get to ask who they want to ask. Are you doing the? And all of a sudden, I know what they know the difference. If they know the difference. So it gives them freedom, and it's a great assessment for locomotor skills. Here are students that are doing wonderful things in the classroom. So I rewarded them by not giving them candy, but by making a GIF of them, right? So these could be stations. Let's say these 3 people worked really, really hard and focus on doing them the right way. I'll take a video, I'll GIF them the next time they come in. They'll see themselves. I'll show it to the rest of the school too for that grade. So let's say this is 2nd grade. Let's say the other 2nd grade class comes in and they see these friends of, oh my gosh, I know them. How'd they get up there? And we have discussion. They got up there because they worked hard. They never gave up. They persevered. They did it right way. They followed directions. Because they see themselves on the projector and because they see their friends on the projector, that motivates them. They are way more likely to work hard when they see people either they know or they see themselves. And it's another powerful moment. They're gonna see that I noticed them working hard. I care about them. I rewarded them by putting them on the projector, and that will go a long way. I am not an expert at technology, but I do use them, and I encourage you to use these resources on the right. Here's Kevin Tiller's website that talks about Plickers. Mike Ginicola also does a great job with those if you visit his website. Here's Mark and Becky Fulmer's website, and it has amazing projector ideas. Would you rathers or this or that. A lot of great ideas that can enhance learning and free you up to go around and give individualized feedback while they have a model on the projector, and it allows you to check in with students. It allows you to get to know them more on a personal level. If you're stuck demonstrating, you're not able to get to know each student as well. So it frees you up, and it really helps them. It's kind of like having another teacher, right? So I strongly recommend using a projector and visiting this website, and I strongly recommend using Plagnitz and BAM video delay. So I think many of us know what both of these are, but here's an example of what a person would do if they have the letter C. They think C is the correct answer. If they're sitting on number 6 on their home base, and the answer they think is C, they put that on top. They place it down on their spot, and I quickly use my iPad to scan all of the QR codes, and in 2 seconds I know who has got it right, who has got it wrong, and that way I can have my instruction prepared for the next day, or I can maybe notice that a couple people got it wrong. I can maybe even teach them at recess or in between classes. I can find them for a couple moments and see what might have confused them. So there's a lot of these questions are already made if you just Google Google Plagnit PE questions. I know Ross Chakrian has a bunch that he just shared with me. Sometimes they're about honesty. So let's say there's A, not yet, B, getting there, C, got it, and D, wow. And so let's say you're doing jump rope, and let's say to get wow you have to have 30 jumps in a row. But the person that said they got 30 at D, that they had the wow, only got about 5 or 10. Then that shows who's being very honest and who's not, and you can discuss that, have a discussion about being honest and how important that is. That doesn't happen too often. Usually they're pretty honest, especially because the answers are private since you turn it over. But Plagnits have really helped, and students just like, they're in charge of their Plagnit. They like physically putting things on the spot. Sometimes I have them move from not yet to getting there, to got it, to wow, and just by physically moving it from left to right, they have this sense of accomplishment. Instead of just knowing they got a wow, by placing something at the wow, that's going to be another memorable moment that they're going to probably remember, and it's almost like it's just something that they're going to remember by physically moving that. So plugins are great. I love them. There's lots of different variations. Just Google quick and easy assessments. All right, band video delay. I didn't have a video of this, but here you can see the students are dribbling with a basketball. They're weaving in and out of the cones, and on their way back, they're able to, it's on, I think, an 8-second delay, so it's recording on an 8-second delay. You can change that. And then once they get done with the course, they look and answer those 3 questions based on what they just saw themselves doing. So I have, these are yes or no questions, but you can make it some high DOK questions like, how did having the ball at your waist affect your control? And they could answer that to you, or answer that to the, I have an injured student here. They're making sure that people know how to answer these questions and understand it. So another way to involve injured students, having them be like the iPad helper, or to make sure people are on task. So even though he couldn't dribble, he could sit there and help people figure out how to understand their answers and comprehend what's going on. So band video delay is one of the best apps out there because they can physically see what they're doing. If they're doing push-ups and they think their back's flat and it's not because you tape them, they come watch and they see, oh my gosh, they have a big mountain going up. Their bottom gets too high. And now they can see, not that they don't trust you, but it's always good for them to see what it actually looks like, and then they'll be more likely to change it versus you just saying back flat, because they think their back is flat, right, until they see it. Another one, we did it on volleyball, and they were able to see it push up the ball, and then a couple times they push it too much forward, and then you ask questions like, how did pushing it forward affect your control, or things like that, to where they have to explain themselves. So band video delay is amazing. I use it nearly every day. Here are the DOK questions I'm talking about. I have this printed out in my back pocket. Every day I try to ask several DOK 3s. 4s are pretty hard to get, but you definitely want to stay away from 1s, the very basic ones. So, the one I use a lot is, can you predict blank and blank? So before we check our pulse, can you predict whether you're in the target zone, whether you're above or whether you're under? And they can make that prediction. Then we actually check and see if they're in it, right? How would you justify, or how can you prove, or anything that has the how or why is really effective. I have that ball that Andy Milne taught me about, the soccer ball, with all these things like how, why, should, could, and whatever their fingers are touching, that's how they start the sentence. It's called a matrix ball. So if you want to Google that, it's really been good as far as getting my kids to be able to ask their own questions and answer their own questions. That kind of gets them to be inquirers and take more ownership in their learning by developing these good questions. So I'm developing questions, but also I'm teaching them how to ask questions as well using these words. So I have this in my pocket. It kind of reminds me to keep these high level questions coming, because it promotes critical thinking and it really helps deepen the understanding. So high DOK questions. All right, feedback. How, when, and where. I saw Mike Ginicola tweet this out, the teacher language. Just glance at that and see, what kind of feedback are you given most of the time, right? What I talked about earlier is when people say, good job, that's empty praise. That's not going to be as significant or meaningful because they really don't know what you're talking about. And obviously, you don't want to get anywhere low there, but so try to think about giving that positive feedback, but being very specific so they know exactly what you're doing, exactly what you want from them, because they'll be able to do it if you tell them, right? They'll get it. Some of the suggestions I have: let them positively struggle. So let's say somebody's hitting a ball and off a tee, and they hit it, I don't know, a couple feet, right? They pick it up, they try it again. I have not said a word. I'm waiting. They hit it again, they struggle again. They pick it up. The third time they crush it way out there. I'll stop them, I'll pull them in, and I'll have them see the on-band video delay, what that looked like. I'll ask them questions about it. I'll ask them how they felt when they did it, both emotionally and physically. So I might say, hey, how did you feel did you feel balanced? What helped you be balanced? What helped you have so much power there? They can explain, oh, I had a flat swing. I didn't do a wood chopper anymore. I didn't go down. I stepped into it, right? So you get them explaining about their success. Then you ask them how they felt that they never gave up. They're going to feel so proud. I did it. I never gave up. The fact that you ask them about the success moments, that's what they're going to remember. I selectively ignored the first 2 unsuccessful attempts, and I got them talking about the successful attempts, which is going to have them, they're going to remember that in the future. They're going to want to play baseball again, as opposed to if I'm always trying to correct them and not let them kind of work through their problems. If I'm trying to correct, all of a sudden I'm talking about the negative ones, right? Then they're going to feel like they're not very competent. Then they're going to want to give up, right? So focus on the positives. How did that happen? Explain yourself, right? Proximity, I love this. Proximity, teaching a student with a partner near. Let's say somebody is really struggling understanding your directions, okay? You keep them near you as you're explaining the exact same concept to a different student. So let's say Trey is struggling at keeping the bat flat. Max, but he's kind of like getting a little frustrated, maybe. I know he should hear it again, but maybe not directly. So I'll say something to Max about, talking about keeping that back flat and why that's so important and asking him how, why that's effective. And then he hears that. Trey hears that because he's in close proximity. So I specifically kept Trey close to me. He didn't think I was talking to him. But now Max got the specific feedback, and also Trey was able to hear indirectly because he was close to me, right? So think about your proximity on who you're giving feedback to and who else might be able to hear that could benefit from that. If you see a student, on this third one here, if you see a student that's starting to get frustrated, ask their partner or neighbor to tell me one good thing that blank is doing in PE today, right? So let's say Max and Trey are partners. I see Trey struggling and kind of getting a little frustrated. Before he loses it, I'll go over to Max and say, hey, Max, can you tell me one good thing that Trey's doing today in PE? And we talk about how it could be anything, right? And he could say, hey, he's really doing a great job of taking turns. I feel really happy to be with him. And all of a sudden, Trey starts to smile. He starts to smile and he forgets about those things he was frustrated about. And then, of course, he's going to have more success because he's more positive. Because that one question, I anticipate frustration, and I ask them right before they hit that mark where they can't control their emotions anymore, right before they lose it, I get them to have their partner explain a success or something good that their partner is doing to get them to calm down. Another thing I'm really passionate about, the fourth one, students only give feedback on what should happen, not what shouldn't happen. What should happen, not what shouldn't happen. I tell them there's a million things that you shouldn't do during this game. You shouldn't climb the fence. You shouldn't spit. You shouldn't spin around. You shouldn't tattle. You shouldn't blah, 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 blah. They need to know one thing, and that thing is what to do, okay? So instead of having students be like, you can't puppy guard, say things like, give them self-space or keep yourself space. Instead of don't or can't or shouldn't, train students to give feedback on what they should do instead of the a million things that they shouldn't do. Have you ever said, don't run, don't run? Kids will ignore that don't part, and all they actually hear is run, right? So walk, please. Be respectful, please, instead of don't push your neighbor, don't do this, right? And you can train students to do that. It's pretty hard, it takes time, but I try to state that positive feedback. I try to train students on using the words that are what should do instead of what shouldn't do, right? Here are some nonverbal signals that I use to make sure everyone's engaged. So this is accountable talk, it's called. And when a student, usually they're talking to their partners, but occasionally we talk as a class, and I'll ask somebody to share with the class. Here on the left is the agree, disagree, shrug shoulders, I don't know. Double agree, disagree, I don't know. So let's say somebody said, well, being respectful means treating people nicely and smiling at them. And so everyone else, without me saying anything, they're trained to agree silently, disagree. So most of them would probably agree there, and some would even double agree that respectful people are nice to people. I also use pointing a lot, but in a positive way. So instead of spending a lot of time giving verbal compliments that might take some activity time, I might say, hey, point at one boy and one girl. The people you're pointing at are being so on task, and they're never giving up, even when it gets challenging, right? So then they point at the people that are doing those things. But then you discuss that who's in charge of you? Yourself. Okay, so if no one's pointing at you, you can control your own happiness, and it's a Sunday, an ice cream Sunday. And if somebody's pointing at you, that's just the cherry on top. It's a bonus. So, we talk about it's just a bonus. You can choose your happiness, and if someone's pointing at you, great. That's a cherry on top. But it gives them to give compliments without spending too much time actually verbalizing it. And people, when they get pointed at, they feel pretty darn good. And also, the people that are pointing and smiling, they're feeling good because it's a win-win. They made someone else feel good. The target zone. So they predict, like I said earlier, they predict how their heart is doing. So this means it's in the zone. So I say 11 to 16, 110 with a 0 at the end, 110 beats per minute to 160 beats per minute. That's just an estimate. It's not perfect. It's just an estimate. So let's say they're counted 14 when they check their pulse. They put a 0 at the end. That's 140 beats per minute. That's in the target zone, I teach them. And if they predicted that, they would do this, right? Then we check the prediction. I say, raise your hand if your prediction was right. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. They learn how to adjust their predictions in the future. But that gets them to monitor their own rate of speed and figure out, okay, sometimes I need to slow down, right? So to get them to think about pacing themselves, especially for things like the pacer, we train them to give those nonverbal signals to kind of make sure you're aware of how fast you're going. So that's the target zone signs, the accountable talk signs, the pointing, the nonverbal compliments, and then you want your students to be better listeners. Model that eye contact and then praise. So here you see students. This is what I teach students to do. So Natalie behind shared something, and Jackson and Oliver literally turn their body around so they can make eye contact. Don't you think Jackson and Oliver are going to remember what Natalie said more likely than if they weren't looking? And guess who's going to feel good about that? Natalie, because she shared it and they made eye contact with her. Everyone wants to be valued and heard. If you're getting eye contact, you're more likely to feel good about what you're saying because people are listening to you and demonstrating that they respect you. Ask questions like, what did your partner say? Don't repeat directions. Don't repeat a student's response. Call another person to do that, right? Hey, what did Natalie say again, Oliver? And then Oliver, that shows whether Oliver was paying attention or not. But I guarantee if he's looking at her, he's probably paying attention, right? So that students find out real quick that, Mr. Bragg might call on me on what Natalie said. I better make eye contact. I better know exactly what she said because they know Mr. Bragg's not going to repeat what they said. So train them to spin around, to turn. I call it knees, please, right? If I'm talking, knees, please. They turn their knees facing me. Their belly buttons are facing me. Everything is facing me. Nose, eyes, shoulders, knees. Belly button. Okay. And that is it. Thank you for coming to hang out with me today about maximizing your PE program. If you're interested in any of these things I talked about today, feel free to. There's more resources here. A couple blogs I wrote about being teachable and things like that, and the podcast with Jorge and Ryan, if you're interested in downloading those. Scan the QR code for if you want to see this presentation again. I apologize. I checked the audio on the videos that I was playing, and it wasn't working, so I'll try to figure that out for the future. But if you want to follow me on Twitter, ELEMPE1. If you liked anything, let me know. And if you want clarification or have any questions or didn't like something, let me know too. I'm open to some feedback. So I appreciate you coming, and have a great day. Thank you.